Something always goes wrong when it comes to live TV. Just a couple weeks ago, Sabrina Carpenter ran screaming from the stage after she was standing a little too close to some pyrotechnics. The singer was at San Francisco's Outside Lands Festival on August 10th to perform some of her hits. The show was a massive success, featuring some really great performances, but I guess they missed one pretty important detail in rehearsal: how far away Sabrina should stand from the platform when the pyrotechnics go off. The star genuinely seemed scared for her life after the fireworks started going off all around her, to the point where people wondered if something was seriously wrong. It's unclear in videos if she was hit by a firework or simply was just surprised by them. Hopefully it's the latter. John Travolta said Idina Menzel's name wrong one time and it lives rent-free in my head. But where did Travolta say her name wrong? In an interview? On a red carpet? No, he did it while presenting at the Oscars, and not even like an award. He was introducing her before she sang one of the most famous Disney songs ever, Let It Go. People were tuned in to watch this performance. The odds were so stacked against him. His intro was, "Please welcome the wickedly talented one and only Adele Dazeem." Now, I don't know who that is, but Idina Menzel did a great job. She said it took her 8 beats to get over the pronunciation. Travolta later shared what caused the vocal blunder. It was a combination of things. He met Goldie Hawn backstage, and then his lines were changed last minute to add phonetic spelling of Menzel's name that he never rehearsed with, which makes me wonder how they could have possibly written her name to get Adele Dazeem. As expected, the interview took this misstep and ran with it. Someone made a Travoltify your name generator. If you go to Google and look up Adele Dazeem, it will show you Idina Menzel. Menzel took this all in stride, even recently wished the moment a happy 10th birthday, but she got her revenge the next year at the 2015 Oscars, introducing Travolta as Glom Gazingo. Kendall Jenner trying to introduce 5 Seconds of Summer at the 2014 Billboard Music Awards is a tough watch. What was in the air that year? Kendall was supposed to introduce 5 Seconds of Summer, right? But it sounds like she almost introduced One Direction instead. She was doing really good up until the end. She just got lost. I can see why she might have messed up. At the beginning of her bit, the word direction was stressed, and the word summer was used back to back. When she hit her first hiccup, Jenner got flustered quickly and visibly was panicking before saying, "Guys, I'm the worst reader," nervously laughing before jumping back on the horse for a semi-strong finish. After the moment happened, Jenner tweeted an explanation. She messed up because she didn't have her contacts. But now we are, in fact, going to talk about One Direction. And again, this screw up happened in 2014. What was up with that year? In this case, we are at the Brit Awards. One Direction has just won the award for global success. There are only 4 boys up there, and this was a time when there should have been 5. Point is, Harry Styles wasn't on stage. Liam Payne started stalling a little to see if Styles could be located, saying, "Has anyone seen the curly lad?" Right, there's 4 of us now, and that's some real life foreshadowing right there. But then, just as Liam is kind of wrapping up the acceptance speech, out from the shadows and sprinting to the stage is one Harry Styles. Poor Harry gets up on the stage and Liam hands him the mic. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't even know what award they've won. He does share why he was gone, saying, "I'm really sorry, I was having a wee." The 2013 Oscars were iconic for one reason, and that was the Jennifer Lawrence stair trip. 22-year-old Lawrence had just won the Oscar for Best Actress. She's wearing this beautiful long gown, which is her undoing because she trips and falls on her way up the stairs. But it's Jennifer Lawrence, so she plays it off so well. Works it into her speech, she gets a standing ovation when she does finally get up to the podium, and addresses the crowd saying, "You guys are just standing up because you feel bad that I fell and that's really embarrassing." How could you not love her? Though it was embarrassing, now it's part of the Lawrence charm to be just a little bit clumsy. We love it when a celebrity proves that they are human just like us. And honestly, if you look at the pictures of the fall, she still looks great and kind of like a Disney princess. Joe Coy's bad Barbie joke at this year's Golden Globes got the comedian swiftly cancelled. First off, I can't believe that was this year. That feels like it was ages ago. And second, he was cancelled because he said a lot of really bad jokes and strange things. The Barbie joke was just the worst. Coy eventually got around to talking about the event of last summer, Barbenheimer, in his opening monologue. He compared what the 2 films were based on, mentioning that Oppenheimer was based on a 721-page Pulitzer Prize-winning book about the Manhattan Project, whereas Barbie was based on a plastic doll and went on to speak cruelly about said doll. Finishing off with the stellar line, "The key moment in Barbie is when she goes from perfect beauty to bad breath, cellulite, and flat feet, or what casting directors call character actor." The audience's reaction to this moment are funnier than any joke he told that night. You can tell that Coy can feel that he's not doing a good job. He starts blaming the writers, making excuses like how he only got the job 10 days ago, saying that he didn't write the bad jokes, he wrote the ones everyone is laughing at. Either way, it wasn't a good look. Larry David introducing Ariana Grande on SNL is over 8 years old now, and I still laugh every time. It happened right before Ariana was supposed to sing her hit song Dangerous Woman. Larry David says, "Ladies and gentlemen, just fine. It's just when he gets to her name that it goes downhill. Names are hard, I don't blame him. He goes for Ariana Grande, he ends up saying Ariana before just giving up. He knows he messed up too much to fix it, so he just stops, and we've all been there. He even does the little hand clap thing that universally conveys that you've accepted your fate. This video is so funny, and some random audience member also lets out the loudest laugh you've ever heard. It's a miracle Ariana was able to perform. I simply would have started laughing. Steve Harvey frequently hosts the Miss Universe pageant, and while he does do a good job, he also makes some little mistakes every once in a while, but none are more famous than when he read out the wrong winner back in 2015, crowning Miss Colombia when in reality Miss Philippines was the winner. Harvey has since looked back on this moment, calling it painful and the worst week of his life. I don't blame him, he was the internet's favorite target for a while. He later explained that the reason the mess up even happened was because there were a lot of changes made before he was supposed to head out on stage. So typically they read 2 names, but that was changed to 3. Apparently, he was also told to read the wrong name by someone in his earpiece. He was told to read the next name, which was Columbia, on the card, and he didn't even know anything was wrong after he read it, since he stepped off stage and got a bunch of compliments. It wasn't until someone on his team let him know what happened that he got with the program. Harvey said that he regrets going back out on the stage after and wishes he could have let someone else handle it, believing that if he did that, he wouldn't have received so much backlash. Fergie singing the national anthem at the 2018 NBA All-Star Basketball game is one of my favorite videos on the internet. We all know that Fergie is talented, but what happened here? She was so into it, and if you look at the players' faces, they are all trying so hard not to laugh. It's really painful. The Fergie edition of the anthem was received so poorly, she had to put out a statement saying, "I'm a risk taker artistically, but clearly this rendition didn't strike the intended tone. I love this country and honestly tried my best. I do personally want to know what the intended tone was, and I would love to see soundcheck." This moment was caught on live TV, but it's now immortalized in a children's book too. The book is called The Ferg-American National Anthem, A Civic Story, and it's highly encouraged that the reader listen to Fergie's anthem while reading. Eerily similar to the Miss America moment was the La La Land debacle from the 2017 Oscars. Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway were up presenting the award for Best Picture that year and called out La La Land as the winner, but that was not true at all. Moonlight really won the award. It was extremely confusing, and though it only took a couple minutes to fix the mistake, the damage was done. After the event was over, the reason why the mistake happened came out. The Oscars apparently have 2 sets of the cards that presenters would get, one on each side of the stage. Emma Stone had just won Best Actress in La La Land, so one card was out, but the other Best Actress card was still active, and that one was handed to Warren and Faye by mistake. That's why Warren took so long to announce the award and looked at the card so many times. He could see that it said Emma Stone in La La Land and was just really confused by it.
Even if you've never watched a Miranda Sings video, you've certainly come across a thumbnail of Colleen Ballinger wearing too much red lipstick. Yes, more than this. Outside of YouTube, Colleen has popped across TV, Broadway, animated movies, and her reputation was mostly unscathed, other than a 2020 scandal when YouTuber Adam McIntyre accused her of inappropriate behavior in years prior. That controversy fizzled until June of 2023, when another YouTuber, Cody Tyler Dahl, backed up McIntyre's accusations. So in addition to grooming, Ballinger has been accused of racial insensitivity and so much more. And how did she respond? Well, she apologized while playing a ukulele without actually apologizing. So then more allegations and criticisms followed, with Ballinger canceling her live shows for the rest of that year, and yeah, that was it for her. In June of 2001, Beverly Hills 90210 alum Rebecca Gayheart accidentally struck and killed a person crossing a Los Angeles street. News outlets report that it was the star's alleged negligence that led to the tragedy, with police noting that several cars had stopped for the pedestrian when Gayheart pulled into the left lane to pass them and, well, She settled a wrongful death lawsuit with his family the following year, but the damage to her career was done. Since then, her work has been mostly relegated to TV movies, guest starring roles in TV shows, and a handful of single seasons of television projects, such as Dead Like Me and Vanished. Speaking with news outlets, she credited her relationship with then-husband Eric Dane, as well as getting professional help through therapy, for helping her through what she called a terrible, terrible time. She mentioned that it's something that's with her every day and it will be for the rest of her life. She doesn't think anybody could sit and say they got over something like that. She doesn't think that's possible. It hasn't been for her, and I don't think it was for the family. Matt Lauer was fired by NBC in November of 2017 after a female employee filed a complaint alleging he harmed her at the 2014 Winter Olympics. At least 6 former and current colleagues went on to accuse him of misconduct, and one former production assistant on Today alleged that he took advantage of his power and where he was in the company when they had a relationship in June of the year 2000. In a statement after he was canned, Matt apologized for his actions but called some of the accusations untrue or mischaracterized. Since the allegations torpedoed his career and his marriage, oh yeah, by the way, his wife of 20 years filed for a divorce in 2019, Matt has shone the limelight for a time. His high-profile friends, including former co-host Katie Couric, cut ties with him, and news outlets report that he's living a very quiet lifestyle. Oscar Pistorius, the double amputee Olympic sprinter, also known to the sports world as Blade Runner, became an international sensation after his performance in the 2012 Summer Olympics in London. Though he failed to medal, he was eliminated in the 400 meters semi-final round. His participation in the games was not only historic, but the result of a hard-fought 5-year court battle that overturned a ruling which deemed his prosthetic legs gave him an advantage. But everything changed within 6 months when he was charged with the killing of his model actor girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp. So she was fired at and killed by Pistorius on Valentine's Day in 2013 while she was locked in the bathroom of his home. Pistorius claimed that he thought she was an intruder, but a jury didn't buy that. According to CNN, he was convicted of a lesser crime, then a higher court reversed that to killing the following year, which earned him a 6-year prison sentence and an untimely end to a once promising athletic career. It used to be that we would associate yummy, buttery things with celebrity chef Paula Deen. Known for her delicious, yet not necessarily healthy recipes and 14 cookbooks, she was a staple on cooking shows before she put something else in her mouth. In 2013, Paula Deen was accused of using the N-word on multiple occasions and mocking folks in front of a staffer. Yeah, no. So it was alleged that she was planning a true Southern plantation style themed wedding for her brother, complete with black male servers, but ended up canceling those plans because of anticipated media response. Not because of, the fact that it's appalling. The case ended up being dismissed, but the effects on her career were permanent and far-reaching, and rightfully so. Companies like the Food Network, JCPenney, Sears, Kmart, Walmart, and Target canceled their deals with her immediately following the suit, and she did try that whole Paula Deen channel in 2015, but I don't think this lady needs any more airtime. It emerged in late 2014 that famed actor, formerly known as America's Dad, Bill Cosby, had harmed dozens of women throughout his career. Cosby was accused by over 60 women of, forcible intercourse, substance-fueled bad things, harm in a intercourse, and a lot of other things that we can't talk about. The earliest incidents allegedly took place in the mid-1960s, but dates of the alleged incidents continue all the way up to 2008, and this happened over 10 US states and in 1 Canadian province. Cosby has maintained his innocence and repeatedly denied the allegations made against him. Most of the alleged acts fall outside the statute of limitations for criminal legal proceedings, but criminal charges were filed against Cosby in one case, and there were numerous civil lawsuits brought against him. Now, I think as of November 2015, there was 8 civil suits against him that were active. In July 2015, there were some court records that were unsealed and released to the public, all from Andrea Constan's 2005 civil suit. The full transcript of his deposition was released to the media by a court reporting service. In December of 2015, 3 Class 2 felony charges of aggravated indecent harm were filed against Cosby in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, based on allegations by Constant concerning incidents in January of 2004. Cosby was found guilty of 3 counts of aggravated indecent harm at retrial on April 26 of 2018, and on September 25th of 2018, he was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in state prison and fined $25,000 plus the cost of the prosecution, which was $43,000. In 2014, Judy Huth filed a civil suit against Cosby in California, alleging that he had harmed her when she was, not old enough to consent, and I could go on and on. Charlie Sheen became the highest paid actor on television when he starred in the popular sitcom 2.5 Men, and his epic 2011 rant on the Alex Jones radio show has become the stuff of Hollywood legend. So Charlie Sheen couldn't stop talking about how much he was winning, and while his career probably could have survived the very odd self-promotion, his remarks against his boss at the time, 2.5 Men creator Chuck Lorre, were not gonna go unpunished. He said, "I embarrassed him in front of his offspring and the world by healing at a pace that this unevolved mind cannot process. I've spent, I think, close to the last decade, effortlessly and magically converting your tin cans into pure gold. And the gratitude I get is this charlatan chose not to do his job, which is to write." Well, Charlie was fired, and has he done anything since? I don't think so. Natalia Kills and husband Willie Moon were co-judges on X Factor New Zealand, which, hey, cool. They were at a level of success. I don't know what caused them to do this, but they seemed to needlessly rip into a contestant in a 2015 audition, earning a reputation for the meanest and most ridiculous X Factor commentary ever. So Kills alleged that contestant Joe Irvine, who simply wore a suit and sang for his audition, was copying her husband. She said, "You're a laughingstock. It's cheesy, it's disgusting. I personally found it absolutely artistically atrocious. I am embarrassed to be sitting here in your presence, having to even dignify you with an answer of my opinion. You make me sick. I feel like you're gonna stitch someone's skin to your face and then kill everyone in the audience. I don't know what caused this." But that was the end for the couple. They were fired from the show, and that's all. Cancer survivor and Tour de France champion Lance Armstrong always maintained that his legacy was super-duper clean. But in 2012, after years of denying charges to the contrary, the US anti-doping agency determined that was a lie. By October of that year, Armstrong had forfeited prizes and awards dating back to 1998. He was stripped of all of his titles, he was banned from the Olympics. The International Olympics Committee would actually delete his Olympic results and take back his bronze medal. Also, he was forced out of the foundation that once carried his name. Milli Vanilli was hot in the late 80s, but soon after their lip-syncing facade began to crack. Charles Shaw, one of the actual singers, came forward in 1989 and revealed that he was one of the 3 vocalists who recorded the tracks, as the vocals were attributed to Fab Morvan and Rob Pilatus. This got messy fast. Morvan and Pilatus ultimately had to relinquish their Grammy, lawsuits were sprung on them, and yeah, things got bad.
Now starting off, we have Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson was the Super Bowl performer in 2004. Now, although being the halftime performer is supposed to boost your career as millions of people are watching your performance, the complete opposite happened to Janet, which was just unfortunate. Now, during her performance, she brought out Justin Timberlake as a guest. He sang the lyric, "I'm gonna have you naked by the end of this song," and then he tore open her costume, exposing her right breast to 140 million viewers. Now, in general, this is just embarrassing, but the media had a field day with it. Now, the incident was referred to as Nipplegate by the media. The FCC received more than 500,000 complaints about the broadcast, CBS was fined $550,000, and then the NFL was asked to refund the $10 million that they had been given to the halftime show sponsor. Now, this incident also affected Janet outside of the Super Bowl, as she was not allowed to attend the Grammy Awards that year and was forced to withdraw after being scheduled as a presenter. Then Janet's album was blacklisted by several radio stations and music channels. She was also then asked to resign from the biographical film of singer and activist Lena Horne. Janet issued an apology and said that the incident was accidental, but some people never forgave her for a simple mistake. Next up is Will Smith. Will Smith was a beloved actor, but the 2022 Oscars changed everyone's mind about him. Chris Rock was on stage presenting an award, and he made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith and her hair, which her husband Will did not like because Jada has been open about struggling with alopecia. Now, after the joke, Will got out of his seat and got on stage and slapped Chris. He then went back to his seat and continued to yell, "Keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth." A lot of people were confused if this was real or fake, but it was indeed real. Now, due to this incident, Will was banned from the Oscars for 10 years, and it was unclear if Will's projects would get released or if he'd ever be cast again. He then put out a lengthy apology, partly stating, "Violence in all of its forms is poisonous and destructive. My behavior at last night's Academy Awards was unacceptable and inexcusable. I'd like to publicly apologize to you, Chris. I was out of line and I was wrong. I am embarrassed and my actions were not indicative of the man I want to be. I'd also like to apologize to the Academy, the producers of the show, all the attendees, and everyone watching around the world." Now, this
this incident was all anyone could talk about, and it definitely slowed down his career. Now let's talk about Kelly Osbourne. Kelly Osbourne was a guest co-host on the talk show The View in 2015. Now this would prove to be a mistake, as she would never be invited back. Responding to Donald Trump's racist description of Mexican immigrants, Kelly was trying to make a point asking, "If you kick every Latino out of this country, then who is going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?" Now immediately after making the remark, the other co-hosts were taken aback and tried to stop Kelly from speaking further, but she continued, in the sense that you know what I mean. Now this moment was just embarrassing, but that phrase was then actually turned into a meme. Now before Kelly could continue on, she was interrupted by co-host Rosie Perez, who is of Puerto Rican descent. Rosie said Latinos are not the only people doing that, and Kelly quickly jumped in stating, "No, I didn't mean it like that, come on, I would never mean it like that. I'm not a part of this argument." Now this left a lot of viewers and the host shocked and disgusted. Kelly apologized for the whole ordeal, but it was just bad. Now Kelly spoke out about the incident in Rolling Stone this year and clarified her comments, saying this whole country is built on immigrants, and if you stop people from coming into this country who do the jobs that make this country exist and thrive and flourish, who's going to do all the jobs that you don't want to do yourself? She said now. It just came out so wrong. She also added, "It hurt a lot of people, and that to me is by far makes it the worst thing I've ever done. I realize that I'm not great on live TV, and that words are so powerful." Now we have Robin Thicke and Miley Cyrus. Robin Thicke had been in the industry for years, but he didn't become a household name until his song Blurred Lines in 2013. Now the track received a good amount of criticism for its questionable lyrics and its racy music video, but things really flew off the rails when he performed it with Miley Cyrus at the MTV Video Music Awards. Now Miley was trying to break out of her Disney shell and show people that she was more than that, but her performance rubbed people the wrong way. On stage, Miley ripped off her clothes, so she was wearing nothing but a new bra and underwear. She continued to stick out her tongue and twerk, this time on Robin, and rubbed his crotch with one of those foam #1 fingers. Now it was a mess of a performance, and a lot of parents were outraged at the former Disney star. Now it immediately became an internet sensation and was widely criticized for being way too crass and raunchy. Now for a while it effectively killed Robin's career, and the parents of Miley's fans were not impressed with the star. Then there's Fergie. Fergie first achieved chart success as part of the hip-hop group the Black Eyed Peas, but when she went solo, her popularity began to fade. Then in 2018, she was invited to perform the national anthem at the 2018 NBA All-Star Game. Now people were excited for her performance to see what she would bring to it, because hey, maybe it could revive her career. But her performance was horrible. Her singing was shaky and weirdly sensual, and due to this, people in attendance could barely contain their laughter, and the clip became insanely viral. She became a laughingstock worldwide, and she apologized saying, "I've always been honored and proud to perform the national anthem, and last night I wanted to try something special for the NBA. I'm a risk taker artistically, but clearly this rendition didn't strike the intended tone. I love this country and honestly tried my best." Now this seemed to be the final nail in the coffin of her singing career, as she really hasn't been seen since. But I can't blame her, that must have been so embarrassing to go through. Moving on to Sinead O'Connor. In 1992, Sinead O'Connor was a performer on Saturday Night Live to perform an a cappella rendition of Bob Marley's song, War. Now the track choice was a poignant one and was delivered as an attempt to protest against the mistreatment of children in the Catholic Church. It was intended to flip Marley's original war on racism and train its crosshairs on the mistreatment the church has been a part of. But during the performance, she stared directly down the barrel of the camera, and while singing the lyrics, "We have confidence in good over evil," she held up a photograph of Pope John Paul II to the camera. At the very moment she sang the word evil, with a flash of intensity, she began tearing up the photo into pieces, throwing them at the camera and stating, "Fight the real enemy." Now SNL had no idea about the stunt she was planning, because during rehearsals, she instead held up an image of a refugee child. Now following the sudden switch, NBC Vice President of Late Night Rick Ludwin stated that after seeing the religious protest from the singer, he immediately jumped out of his chair and the crew scrambled while the production team contemplated cutting the feed. Now due to this, she was banned from SNL, but hey, didn't she have a point? I mean, she was right. Now we have Mariah Carey. Now did this really destroy her career? Not really, but this performance performance definitely made a dent in it, and it became a new meme. On New Year's Eve 2016, Mariah Carey appeared on the Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve. Now, this was a dumpster fire of a performance to say the least. Mariah's earpiece began to malfunction, causing her to go out of sync with the backing track. Being frustrated, she simply walked around the stage while passive-aggressively making excuses and complaining about the lack of a sound check. Now, she didn't even try to carry on with the performance. The dancers continued their choreographed routine while the singer just pouted. Now, while it wasn't her fault and anything could go wrong on live TV, it was definitely a bad look ringing in the new year. Anything can happen during a live performance, but Mariah should have handled the situation way better. Up next is Ashlee Simpson. In 2004, Ashlee Simpson was on the rise, and she was the musical act on Saturday Night Live that June. Now, unfortunately though, her SNL performance did not go as planned. She performed her hit single, Pieces of Me, and it went well, but then she returned to the stage to perform her next song when the vocals for the previous song began playing while her mic was down at her side. It was then revealed that she was lip-syncing. She then did an awkward jig on stage and later blamed her band during the closing credits. She said, "I feel so bad, my band started to play the wrong song, I didn't know what to do, so I thought I'd do a hoedown. I'm sorry, live TV." Now, this was just plain awkward. Her career never recovered as she was booed at her Orange Bowl performance in 2005, and her next two albums failed. Hey, maybe if she owned up to it, people would have had more sympathy, but she just placed the blame on other people.
Number 10. Mike Tyson. So I had trouble landing on just one interview to mention when it comes to this man. He is someone who seems to just bounce back after every single heinous thing he's done, so we're gonna run through a few of them. The first time Mike really hurt his career was in the 80s, and it wasn't even something he said. He was doing an interview with his then girlfriend Robin Gibbs. When the topic of Mike's behavior came up, she said herself that Mike had an extremely volatile temper. Recent reports had also surfaced of Mike getting loud and physical with Robin, something she seemingly confirmed, while Mike just stared at the interviewer the entire time, giving him an evil look. Now, that was one of the first little notches on his belt. That wasn't really a meltdown. As the years went by, more and more controversies came to light, and during a press tour for his latest bout in the early 2000s, he lashed out at a fan in the crowd, hurling a slew of insults and calling them the British word for cancer sticks. It starts with an F and it rhymes with maggot. The clip became viral overnight and placed his career in jeopardy, but he finally drove that nail into the coffin on CP24's Breakfast Television in 2014. After somehow maintaining enough relevance to get a one-man show, Mike was sitting down with host Nathan Downer to promote when the interview took a hard left and went from "So, what's the show about?" to "So, should you even be allowed on stage, you monster?" That's not what he actually said, but apparently that's what Mike Tyson heard, because he stopped answering questions and would instead hurl sarcastic insults. The F word is once again his favorite and just throws it at him. I don't know if you've noticed, but Mike hasn't been on the news much since then, and probably for a good reason. Number 9. Paula Abdul. Q13 Fox News. In 2012, famous judge and British bad boy Simon Cowell decided to fire his fellow X Factor judge after she went on Fox News and made herself sound like a little bit of a fool. During an interview with Q13, things started out a little rocky thanks to some audio issues causing Paula to hear a station in Texas instead of their own. When they eventually got everything up and running, Paula was just as confusing as she was with the original issues. The interviewers were trying to ask her about her visit to Seattle, where Simon claims that the worst singers that he has ever encountered dwell. Instead of defending the city, Paula doubled down and agreed with Simon. It's not the statement though that landed her in the hot seat, it was actually just the way that she was speaking. Paula had always been a little bit animated in her life, using arms a lot when speaking to people, but she was particularly slurry and seemed like she was under the influence of something. This was just one of several interviews where Paula is noticeably woozy. Simon Cowell has actually claimed the only reason she was invited to host on the X Factor in the first place was to see if she would bring in the American Idol viewers, and when that didn't pan out, he realized the right move to make was to let her go because she's not great on television. Of course, Paula was mad about this and confronted Simon several times, only making that meltdown bigger and bigger. Number 8. Robert Downey Jr. Being a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe means a ton of interviews. Now, Robert had the fortune of playing Iron Man for 10 years, being featured in 11 movies. While doing press for his second round with the Avengers in 2015, he had the misfortune of speaking with a legendarily terrible interviewer, Krishnan Guru Murphy, on Channel 4. Now, I've talked about this guy in other videos for making Quentin Tarantino walk out of an interview, and he is making a return for something pretty similar. The interview is uncomfortable from the very beginning. Christian stumbles through his questions as quickly as he can, with Robert doing his best just to keep things smooth. Instead of asking questions about the movie though, Christian decided to probe Robert about his life in prison and with substance control issues. Now, at first, he's okay and answers the questions, but then Christian brings up his dad and asks if he feels that he escaped his dark past. Robert is visibly anxious and begins breathing pretty heavy to keep himself calm. He asks what they were doing there, and then the team said goodbye. He stood up and walked out of the room, and he said that Christian seemed nice, but things were getting just a little bit too Diane Sawyer for his taste. This was one of the most uncomfortable interview moments in Robert's career, and it's not even close to the worst one for Christian. Number 7, Sofia Vergara. Fans of the show Modern Family will recognize Sofia as Gloria, aka Manny's mom, who is just absolutely hilarious and heartwarming at the same time, even outside of Modern Family. Now, while speaking with Ellen in 2017 about her career and some new projects coming up, Ellen decided to play a game called English Word of the Day. Claiming to be learning Spanish with one word a day, she wished to teach Sofia one as well. Before the segment, Sofia is roasting Ellen for her dislike of cotton, but when Ellen asks if she wants to learn the English word with her, Sofia scoffs and is visibly annoyed, claiming that she speaks English very well. Ellen gives her the word flabbergasted and asks her to define what it means. Not only does she pronounce it correctly the first time, but she knew exactly what it meant. Ellen follows it up with discombobulated, which left Sofia confused and thinking pretty hard. Now, she butchered the word, and while she seemed to be taking things in stride, it turns out Sofia was so frustrated with participating in this game, as she is a bit self-conscious when it comes to her accent. A lot of people consider the segment to be a little bit racist and more cringe-inducing than fun. I've seen the clip. That's accurate. Number 6, Joaquin Phoenix. We understand a dedication to your craft, and Joaquin Phoenix is just a prime example. This dude's acting career has been going steady since he first appeared in the 1989 comedy Parenthood when he was in his teens. Now, while he is seen as one of the greatest actors in recent history, his reputation on set was a little tarnished thanks to a freakout while filming the 2018 solo flick Joker. He appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live to promote the shoot when Jimmy plays a behind-the-scenes clip of Joaquin getting loud and angry at a man named Larry, and the constant whispering behind the cameras before dropping a few F-bombs and storming off this set. When the cameras came back to the studio, Joaquin was frozen in shock and clearly not expecting that clip to ever see the light of day. He is not having a good time. He explained that Larry was a cinematographer who teased Joaquin off set earlier in the day, calling him a diva and referring to him as Cher. In fact, if you're watching the clip and during the outbursts, you can actually hear him say, "You want to call me Cher? How is that an insult?" He then explained that there is a lot of pressure on set, especially in a closed space, like the apartment from the scene that they were filming. He apologized to the audience for having to see him behave like that, which, was met with applause. Because at the end of the day, he's a performer and no harm came from the outburst or the meltdown, and honestly, if Larry's cool with it, so are we. Number 5, Nicolas Cage. The most unhinged man in Hollywood history. One of the few people who somehow managed to star in billions of movies, but has barely seen or kept a cent of that money. During a press junket in 1990, Nick went on a talk show called Wogan to discuss his latest project, Wild at Heart. When the host Terry Wogan announced Nick Cage, he entered with karate kicks, a front flip, somersault. He threw wads of cash at the audience because, hey, he's Nick Cage, why not? And when he finally sat down, moments before the interview actually began, he asked if he could take his jacket off. He proceeds to take his jacket off and the shirt underneath of it, because if people thought Nick Cage was all together, they were proven wrong during this interview. Despite the content being relatively tamed, the entire time you can just see sweat glistening off of Nick's chest, because guess what? Wearing a leather jacket on your bare chest is beyond uncomfortable, especially when there are lights aimed at you. Now sure, it might look cool until you take it off and you just have a heat rash. Nick's always been unhinged, but this meltdown during this interview was truly unique. His behavior in the 90s was apparent and well documented thanks to him literally being in like 2 movies a year. Number 4, Christian Bale. Christian is a very versatile actor, physically and of course skill-wise. He's able to shrink and grow his physique seemingly at will. He's played everything from a skinny substance addict to Batman in 2008. Christian starred in the third film of the Terminator franchise, Terminator Salvation, and while he was filming a scene, director of photography Shane Holbert apparently just moved into Christian's eyesight, and this caused Christian to snap out of character and into defense mode. The now infamous audio clip of Christian screaming at Shane to make matters worse, anyone trying to calm Christian down were met with an equally swift verbal lashing. While the cinematographer was just checking a light to make sure that it was in the right place, like doing his job, Bale made it his mission to share his intense feelings with the entire crew. When the audio leaked, Bale apologized for his actions and told the world to praise the crew for their work. Now, while the movie turned out okay visually speaking, the project as a whole is remembered as a terrible Terminator movie, and he gets pretty uncomfortable when he talks about it on stage. Number 3, Paris Hilton. Paris is the originator of the phrase famous for being famous, because this woman made headlines many times over the years for a little bit of everything. In 2011, Paris appeared on ABC to discuss her career, her personal life, and the recent situations she had been dealing with involving stalkers. During the interview, she revealed a few things about her life that had previously been speculated, like the fact that she used a higher-pitched baby voice on the show Simple Life, but had a much deeper and serious tone in real life. But the conversation eventually ventures into uncharted waters. The interviewer asked Paris if she felt that her former friend and protege, Kim Kardashian, had overshadowed her in the eyes of the media. Paris says nothing, looks to her publicist, and goes to stand up. They almost wrapped the interview entirely, but eventually things simmered down and they were able to clear up the air. However, the moment stuck with fans of Hilton immediately and begged the question, why is she so uncomfortable talking about this? And it's because it's true. Well, it turns out the world answered the question for her, because Kim Kardashian's show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, made it big, and Paris Hilton's show was cancelled after one season. So, there you go. Number 2, Tom Cruise. Matt Lauer is not just a terrible person who turned out to be a creepy creepo. He was once a popular talk show host in the early 2000s. During an interview with Tom Cruise in 2005, the topic of his scientific beliefs came up that quickly sent Tom into a rant about psychiatry, and somehow the topic got into Ritalin and pseudosciences. I don't know, Tom yelled at Matt about knowing more than him about psychiatry, like he had some inside information that he was secretly a therapist, who knows. The interview came at the height of Tom's pretty public descent into chaotic badness, becoming very famous for his outlandish beliefs and his wish to push them onto other people. The highlight of the interview came when Cruise was asked about his previous criticisms of Brooke Shields taking anti-sad time pills, to which he responded by calling her a glib. I looked up the definition of that word, and it means fluent and voluble, but insincere and shallow. But this was only one of the several interviews from 2005 that I wanted to discuss today, especially with Tom Cruise. Good lord, that was a rough year for him. When he was with Katie Holmes, he was a nutcase. Just ask Oprah. I mean, ever since the mid-2000s, his career has mainly been Mission Impossible, with only a few small roles to fill the gaps here and there, not the Hollywood superstar that he was aiming to be. And at number 1, my favorite entry, Bobcat Goldthwait. Allow me to start the entry by doing an impression of Bobcat. Thank you. Bobcat may not be much of an actor these days, but in the 80s and 90s, this man was dominating the film and comedy scene. His zany brand of over-the-top, high-energy performance was so well received by any and all who saw him. I can still hear his voice echoing in my head whenever I think of Police Academy. In 1994, comedian Arsenio Hall invited his longtime buddy Bobcat onto his talk show, which unfortunately was in its final days on the air. When he heard the cancellation, Bobcat decided to send a message to the big brains that made the decision, because he spray painted the word Paramount on the wall behind him, throws furniture around, breaks TV screens, all the while Arsenio is just sitting back and laughing. When they returned from commercial, the set was in ruins, and despite that, Arsenio joked that he was like, the worst part is I have to pretend like I'm mad at him. Joke's on him, that wasn't the only talk show meltdown he partook in. A few years after this, Bobcat set a chair on fire on the Jay Leno show for no reason, just for fun. Like he was standing there just going, fire. He was fined over $3,000 and made to replace the chair. Oh, and in case you haven't noticed, he hasn't been asked to be on any talk shows recently. Number 9, Jada Pinkett Smith. Yeah, Jada snapped, but no, it's not in the grandiose, wild fashion like some of the other entries on this list will be. Jada has slowly been losing her mind as time has gone on, but she officially snapped while doing press for her new memoir, Worthy, which really should have been called Worthless. I say that because you actually don't need to own own the book to know its contents. Jada decided to share those live on TV for a week straight before her book came out. And in one of those interviews, it saw her revealing that she was separated from Will Smith for 7 years despite appearing to be a strong and happy couple for so long. Jada has always been so adamant that she is a good person and that herself and Will are best friends who do anything for each other, and she also revealed a lot of stuff that I don't have the mental capacity to repeat. That is how much this woman has drained my soul. She may not have snapped in the way that many of you hoped for, and I'm sure there are already people typing in the comments that Jada's insane and I'm an idiot. Yeah, I see those. Thanks a lot for the views, guys. But this is my list, and I want to share how terrible she is as often as possible. Number 7, Joan Rivers. While speaking with CNN host Frederica Whitfield about her role as a fashion critique on the reality series Fashion Police, Joan didn't appreciate the questions that she was being asked. While calm at first, the host claimed that Joan's comments on the show may be considered mean or cold-hearted, but the fans wanted to hear what she had to say. Before even being able to finish that sentence, Joan clapped back saying it's not mean, claiming that she says the truth. She's just saying what the people on the couch at home are probably thinking. She called people and their style ugly. She may be cold, but her words are meant to heal and not to berate. Alright, so everyone who called me ugly in high school was just encouraging me then. The interviewer then went on to ask Joan how she felt her words were coming across to the audience on both her show and the readers of her book, which apparently featured some pretty dark content about people that Joan had no business discussing. Joan said, if you can make something funny in life, do it. Hey, I got pages and pages of jokes about the events in New York in 2001, but I don't say them out loud because they're horrible and make people uncomfortable. It's not a great defense, Joni. The final straw came when Joan was asked about the fur coat that she was wearing on the cover of her book and the backlash that she would face from animal rights activists. Well, Joan got furious and decided to leave the interview, but not before calling out Frederica for asking such negative questions, for wearing leather shoes, and for reminding her that she made people laugh for over 50 years. Quit asking her why she did what she did and what she's wearing. She's done. And then she just walked off and was never invited to return again. Number 5, Crispin Glover. Crispin may not be a very active member in Hollywood these days, but he has most certainly been in some of your favorite top 10 movies, being featured in stuff like Charlie's Angels and Back to the Future. Crispin was always considered to be a bit of an eccentric guy, both on and off camera. In 1987, he made one of the most notorious appearances in late night history when he was a guest on The Late Night Show with David Letterman and was supposed to promote a new indie flick called River's Edge, but instead he delivered a bizarre interview without any clear reason why. Many have speculated that this is a staged bit, but no one's ever actually confirmed that story, considering how unhinged Crispin is. Maybe. From the moment Crispin is brought on set, he seems to be distressed. He wore strange clothes, including black platform shoes that made him like an extra 6 inches taller. Instead of answering questions about the project, he decided to rant about his portrayal by the media, literally pulling out press clips and quoting them on air. Remember newspapers? He claimed people thought he was weak and then challenged David to an arm wrestle before getting out of his chair, delivering a high kick in David's direction and just getting so close to his face. David giggled and then cut the interview short. Whether it was staged or not, Crispin's infamous interview will always go down in history as the moment that he snapped live on TV. Number 4, Charlie Sheen. Charlie rose to fame in the 80s after starring in a slew of cult classic flicks like Red Dawn, The Boys Next Door, and that little cameo he had in Ferris Bueller. Those are the only ones that I've seen. He fell into the mainstream, however, in 2003 when he began playing the character Charlie Harper in the hit sitcom 2.5 Men. So good that just mentioning it gets that song in your head. However, in 2009, he was arrested for attempting to harm his wife Brooke Mueller on several occasions, and at the time of his arrest, both parties had been indulging in no-no juice, with Sheen becoming enraged beyond control, according to the reports. Following this, a restraining order was placed prohibiting Sheen from being within 100 feet of both Brooke and their children, and despite all that controversy, Charlie was later seen doing press on air for an upcoming movie on the Today Show when the interviewer asked Charlie what was behind his sudden behavior, claiming that he was being perceived as this angry and wild guy, but Sheen responded with, excuse me, it's not anger, it's my passion, before launching into a no-no-snow-fueled tirade. It is a wonderful interview. He claimed that his brain functioned within a separate realm to ours, and Charlie's interview was defensive to say the least, with his energy just being weird and aggressive the entire time. Ever since then, Charlie he's maintained this weird air of arrogance towards himself and still believes that he's the king of TV and winning, when in reality this is most likely the first time you've heard about him in quite a while. Number 3. Kanye West. Kanye was slowly going mad in the eyes of the public in 2010, but as the years went by, he did more and more TV appearances. It wasn't until 2018 though when his political beliefs just got him heated on live TV. On Jimmy Kimmel Live, when he asked Kanye how he felt about the response to his decree that he was all set for the president at the time, Donald T., which was largely criticized, he defended his statements by claiming that he did not have to conform to a united mindset and he was just a bit upset about the backlash, but that some of him kinda liked it. He then suggested that the world was in a simulation, claimed that it was filled with unpaid actors. This over 20-minute interview is just filled with metaphors, concept of love. He compared himself to the Son of God. This interview is just only a short time after his anti-Semitic tweets were circulating the internet. He even makes a joke about being anxious about asking his publicist to be on the show. He was fairly calm in his delivery of his opinions, but he snapped on TV, and then a couple weeks later, heck, a couple days later even, he snapped again in real life.